Just the basic, how does it feel to be back rocking and rolling?
Yeah, it's exciting. We've been, guys have been back for a couple weeks. Obviously, our weather's kept us from getting on a field. I think we've been on a field maybe twice, so that's a little disappointing. But we've been able to, maximize our space indoors with the batting cages and any other facilities around campus we can find. So excited for tomorrow to got to play the games, got to play these inter-squad games and start figuring out who can do what as we get closer to the season.
What's the vibe been like with, last year you had the big core group of returning guys. This year it seems like a little bit more new faces. Is it a little bit more like year one, trying to get the program to everybody?
Yeah, I think so. I think the culture of the program is really strong. I think we have some guys like Targach and Jace has been Lavalette's been a big part of that. Cortez, Prager on the pitching side, Brad Rudis, guys like that. So, so I feel confident in that. But I think this is college athletics today. To think that we're going to get to the point where we have a core group of high school players that have come through the program, but there's just transition in college athletic these days, and so yeah, that's a good question. I think it probably feels a little bit more like year one, but the new guys are all they're such fun fun guys to be around, like the Claunches, like the Palishes. You have Schott and Appel and Tanner Jones, and Braden. They're good players, but they're just fun to be around, and they enjoy being here, and they feel privileged to be here, which we all are privileged to be here.
From a player perspective, does it seem like, I know some of these guys, this might be their first time transferring, but does it seem more like the new norm now that this is, from a player perspective too, and being integrated into a new program?
You'd have to ask them, but yeah, I think you can. Somebody said the other day to me that you don't build programs anymore, you build teams. I don't think that's true. I think you have to have a core set of beliefs that, hey, this is how we're going to operate. Like I heard Max, the football player, is that name right? Max, talking about Coach Elko and hey, this is what we stand for. And then when you come in, you're bought into what we do, or you're going to be out. You're going to be out. And if you got to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. So anyway, so I think that we all have to get used to the transition that a program brings, and baseball is more used to that than any other sport because of the draft. And as I said earlier today, most of my career has been spent as a coach where you could transfer. In the last 10 or 12 years you couldn't, or whatever it's been, but most of my career we had open transferring. There just wasn't a waiver wire and a website to go to look at it. So I'm used to that.
You mentioned some of the names that were on your first team here, and you mentioned the same breath as some of the transfers that have come in. So early on, obviously before your first practice, how does this team's identity, at least off the field in the clubhouse, compare to that first team that went to Omaha?
Really similarly in terms of fun guys to be around. Claunch and Kaler and Dylan Rock, Palish, those guys, they were just fun to be in the clubhouse, fun to be on road trips with. So that's a great lineup of players and a great lineup of personalities, and I think we have the exact same thing here. We just need to play better baseball. That team played really good baseball at the right time. They played a brand of baseball that is not sustainable. It's not sustainable to have, just okay pitching and play bad defense. That's not sustainable. That might be sustainable. You can get hot. That's the thing about our sport, and any sport that has a tournament. College football is getting ready to have it. It's like Parcells used to say, it's a tournament. Like he called the NFL playoffs a tournament. So if you can get in the tournament, you can get hot. Like TCU did last year. They had a good team. Didn't have a great regular season. Got super hot at the end in baseball and ended up in the College World Series. And so. I'm getting on a tangent, but getting hot, you can't count on getting hot. You need to have pitchers that throw strikes. You got to make the routine plays and have good situational hitting in baseball and run bases. So hopefully we can combine the personalities that you're talking about with actually playing really good baseball, which honestly we really haven't done.
You mentioned pitching, new pitching coach Max Wiener. What have the early returns look like from him and the guys taking to his philosophy and teaching style? Obviously, before you have to get them on the field and find out who can do what.
Yeah, if the games were played in a bullpen in the office, we'd already be in Omaha hanging out at Drover. But but we're not, you know. They're just, I mean, everything's been great. I mean, he's working his rear end off. He has instilled a philosophy. He has shown the players they can trust him, which that's a huge part of being a coach or a parent or anything else. He's trustworthy. And so I've seen guys get better in terms of their stuff and in terms of their pitches. And we've only had one day on a field where the pitchers actually threw live to hitters, and some guys you could see it get better. Brett Antolik, Braden Montgomery's overall pitches repertoire is better than what he showed up here with, guys like that. But you got to play the games, you know. So to sit here and spout off about us doing this, that, or the other, the games will tell us who we are.
Does he show excitement on not just teaching, which is what his background has been, but actually competing?
Yeah.
And I've got to have a game plan now that's going to win or lose games.
Yeah.
Not just that.
Yeah. So your question is, has he shown excitement for that? He's shown elite excitement for that. And I think part of the reason he left, I mean, a guy could be a major league pitching coach. He's turned down 5 or 6, he turned down 2 over the winter break that teams tried to hire him as a major league pitching coach. And he's always wanted to be in college baseball because of the competition. And so I think he's looking forward to that challenge. He's asked a lot of questions. One of the beauties of Max is that he knows what he knows, and he also he knows what he doesn't know. So he asks a lot of questions. He leans on myself and Nolan and Mike especially, who have been through these battles and been in the games. But it's like a player, man. You got to go through it. And so there's going to be growing pains, I'm sure. But no one will be more prepared than Max. So we just got to support him and get into the games and play.
Obviously super early, but what do you anticipate some of the strengths of this team being?
Well, I mean, if we throw enough strikes like we did in those 2 fall games, if we fill the strike zone up, if we continue to do that in the spring, then I think our pitching will be better than it has been in terms of strike throwing ability and performance. Will it be SEC elite? Remains to be seen. You know, I think that takes place over years. Arkansas, LSU, Florida, Vanderbilt. You're talking about places that have had, you know, stacked recruiting classes on top of recruiting. So there's not just good college pitchers that throw strikes. There's like SEC, the upper echelon of the league. And so I think Texas A&M was that when I was in 15 and 16, when I was at TCU, having to face those teams, and we have to get back to that point, and we will. So I think overall strike throwing ability has shown a chance to be good. Obviously, I mean, there's overall raw power throughout the lineup, which that's sexy, but you know, can we manage the strike zone? We don't want to be a team that just hits homers and strikes out a lot. And you got to catch the baseball. So we're a work in progress, but I think there's enough talent level there that if we maximize that talent and have it become skill instead of talent, then I think we'll be okay.
In between seasons, how do you look at data and kind of find areas where guys can improve? I guess that's true to their skill set. Like, you know, Pujols would never lead the majors in stolen bases, but if you could say, you know, this doesn't have to be as much of a weakness, and we think even maybe these strengths can be a little better.
Yeah. That's a long question. Yeah, I mean, I think you just look at each individual player and say what are they capable? What do we think they're capable of doing without underestimating them, right? You don't want to underestimate what a young player can become, and you got to remember these are amateur players. These are young players, and I don't expect them to be flawless. Our fans shouldn't expect them to be flawless. They're going to make mistakes. It's an imperfect game played by imperfect people, so they're going to screw up, but they're what they're capable of becoming, you know, analytically, some of that can be measured. So, for example, Blake Binderup can hit the ball when he hits it square, can hit the ball 110 miles an hour. Well, how do we get him to hit it more and miss it less? You know, how do we get him to manage to me, it's for a hitter, it's just managing the strike zone, swing at the strikes and take the balls, right? And so it sounds simple, but it's really hard to do. But yeah, I mean, that's the essence of coaching, is trying to get the most out of the player and help them achieve what they're capable of achieving.
What was the process of getting selected to the AD committee, and what does that mean to you to be a part of that?
The process was simply we had a meeting with President Welsh last week, maybe sometime. Just the head coaches. He's a great listener. He's obviously an incredible leader. I don't think I can tell you this. I've worked for a lot of administrators in my day, and the chancellor at TCU and President Welsh are the two people that I feel as good about in their role. I'm not talking about athletic directors, but in their role as anybody I've ever been around. Like, you talk about an elite leader that you can go to sleep at night and know that you're in pretty good hands. And so we had that meeting, and he said, hey, I'd like to have at least potentially 2 coaches on this committee. If you'd like to be on it, just fire me a text. And I did. And I said, hey, I'd be more than happy to do it. If you're interested in having me, if you're not, if you choose somebody else, no big deal. And so you'd have to ask him why he picked me. But Joni and I just want to represent our coaches. I've had a lot of conversations with many of them, Coach Elko, Buzz, Coach Chadwell, Coach Guerreri, all of them. Just, hey, what are we looking for? What means the most to you? And so, and it's a complete honor to be a part of it. I was a part of 2 AD search committees at TCU, so I've been through it a couple different times. Some of them are eyewash, and some of them are real. And I think, well, I know this one's real. We're not going to choose the person. President Welsh will choose the person. We're just going to be a part of the process and get to meet the people that come through potentially.
What type of input do you hope to provide for that? And I guess in your experience, what kind of makes up some promising qualities for him?
First one to build a new baseball stadium. That's number one. That's one. No. Well, yeah, kind of. No, you just I want a great leader, man. Just, somebody that's the best athletic director I've ever worked for. His philosophy was, my job is to support the head coaches. Number one, my job is to support the head coaches and the student athletes, but my job is to give the head coaches every resource they need to be successful, and then hold them accountable and have a relationship with them. And I've said this before. One of Buzz's quotes: "Leadership is lonely." It is. 90% of the things that are a part of my job, I can talk to my coaches about. 10% I can't. And it's nice to have somebody that you can talk to and interact with and have a relationship with. It's like anything else in life. So I would want someone that's a strong leader that can build a culture among our head coaches at a place that's really hard to do that because it's so big, we're so spread out, we're so siloed. Obviously, the nuts and bolts of the job, NIL, or revenue sharing, we're all in for a massive shock here in the next 6 to 18 months. The revenues are probably going to be about the same, but the expenses are going to go way up, And so how do you manage that if we're sharing revenue with student athletes? And how do you manage all of that financially? That's the kind of person that we're looking for that can do all the nuts and bolts of the job, but also create a culture where we can win some championships around here.
In a sport that's built on tradition like no other, you've had a lot of technology that's come into your game. Is there anything that's approached what y'all went through last year with the wristbands and the strike zone? I know in the fall y'all wanted to see the strike zone up on the scoreboard. Is there anything like that you're going to see this year?
Well, we're now allowed to have audio communication with all the players, not just the catcher. So like the major leagues, the pitch comm, so we're now allowed to do that. So you'll see a lot of teams, including us, we won't be using the wristband. We'll have the thing in the hat where Max, for instance, will call the pitch, or I can put a bunt defense on through that, stuff like that, a pickoff play, stuff like that. You can do that through the thing in their hat, and so all the players know, and they won't have to look at a wristband. Speeds the game up. So I think that's really good. You're not allowed to use that on offense yet, however. Still got to bang trash cans. But no, on the offensive side, you can't use that stuff. But the pitch comm is something that we'll be able to utilize.
Hey, Coach, when you got here, you started a new tradition at a school rich of traditions of wearing the 12-man jersey. Can you talk about the selection line and what he means to this club?
Yeah, that was pretty close to 99%ish unanimous selection among the players, coaches, support staff. And so, yeah, I think Ryan, he just the core values of this place, respect, excellence, leadership, loyalty, integrity, and selfless service. He represents all those things. And he's been through the highs and lows of college baseball, both as a team and professionally. And so a pretty simple choice, to be honest with you. I prefer it to be an older player, an experienced player, a senior in a perfect world. That way it gives something for those younger guys to continue to aspire to. It is a great honor, and I know he's excited about it.
Obviously, we see the accolades that come along with Brady Montgomery and everything like that, but in your fall, getting to work with him and see him up close, what about him makes him such a special person, such a special player?
As a special person, you've got great parents, elite parents, number one. You could tell he's raised well. He has invested. He is as invested in his teammates as any player we have. Like, I'm talking about from the guy who barely made the team to the guy who might be, supposed to be the next best, to Jace, the next best player, or the player that's of his equal skill set. He knows everybody's name. You say that's a simple thing, but a lot of kids don't do that, right? And they think about, because we're all selfish by nature. So he's selfless for sure. And and then obviously on the field, he's just super talented in terms of run, hit, throw, play defense, hit for power. He can do all those things. His biggest challenge is he needs to allow himself to have some fun. He's a serious guy. He wants to do well. He wants to please. And that's a good quality. But in baseball, like, you go 3 for 10, you're going to please me, great. I mean, that's awesome. 4 for 10, awesome. But 1 for 10 on a weekend doesn't mean I like you less. And so, I think his challenge and that goes for every great player, especially in the year in which they're draft eligible. I've coached plenty of guys that are projected this pick or that pick, and I've seen the guys handle it awesome, and it goes great. And I've seen guys not handle it well, and it doesn't go as they have planned. So that'll be Braden's challenge is just enjoy this experience. Enjoy being an Aggie, enjoy playing in the SEC. You got to still find ways to have fun when your own individual performance doesn't go the way you want.
You have a lot of positional flexibility in the fall and move guys around. Are you still going to do that at the beginning of the spring, or have you kind of narrowed the spots where potential players can play?
I think the fall gives us a little bit of an idea of who can potentially do what. But that's why we got to play these inter-squad games leading up to the season, see who's healthy, and then we'll start playing the real games and the lineup that starts the season. I think my first game ever here, Targac didn't start, and he had led the SEC in RBIs that year. So, the games will tell us who's supposed to play and who's supposed to play the most. But yeah, we have, a guy like Caden Kent can potentially play all 3 or 4 spots in the infield, I think. But we train that way, with the exception of maybe a big lumbering first baseman like a Bender up. I mean, there isn't an infielder on our team that doesn't train at all 4 spots. Number one, that helps them become an infielder at their spot. Number two, it makes them a utility player for us. And number three, when they get to professional baseball, they're probably not going to play the position they played in college. Most college shortstops get moved off somewhere else, for example. So, it's our responsibility to develop at all those spots and make them versatile, so we can, if somebody goes down or we got to make a substitution, that they're not locked into one spot.
You elevated Nolan King during the offseason. How has his role changed? How has he settled into that new title? And what made him someone that you wanted to identify to join your initial staff getting back to what you hired him 2 years ago?
Jeez, that's a lot of questions. He's ready to be a head coach, more than ready to be a head coach. He understands every facet of a college baseball program. I think, having played and worked with Paul Maneri does that for him. Great assistant coaches he was with, being here. And so he's our recruiting coordinator. He's got great feel for the game. He's a drastically underrated coach. He gets all this credit for recruiting, which he's good at, but he really knows baseball. And for me, I know how it felt when I was named associate head coach, and it doesn't change a lot, but sometimes perceptually that can help you maybe get the job you want. Not that we want him to leave. We're going to make it really hard for him to ever leave, but if he found the right head coaching job, we're going to celebrate that. So yeah, and then why do we hire him here? Because I just needed a great recruiter at the time, and felt like he had incredible relationships all over the country, especially Texas, because LSU recruits all over the country, but especially in Texas. Also has a great relationship with agents, which is a big part of today's game. So yeah, he's a superstar.
Any other questions for Coach?
Jim, who didn't vote for Todd?
What's that?
Who didn't vote for Todd?
Seriously. What's that? Yeah, Targach didn't vote for Tar. There you go. All right. See you.